Hello and welcome to Blockleaders.io with me, Julian Gotzel. Today I am delighted to welcome Stefan Rust, who is the founder and CEO of Sonic Capital and much more besides to the show. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Stefan. It's great to chat again.
Likewise, thank you for having me, and always great meeting your audience, and I think we always have great conversations, so really happy to be back.
Yeah, well, we've had a great conversation before I even started recording. But anyway, I want to ask, first of all, a little bit about you, because you are very well known in blockchain circles. I only discovered today that you are Swiss by birth. So tell me just a little bit about your background and your career, please.
Yeah, look, so I mean, I was born in Hong Kong, left when I was about 13, went to Switzerland, did all my education in Switzerland, and felt that I wanted to try and establish more about China and learn more about my roots, where I was born, and learn Mandarin. So I moved to China, and then I was lucky and fortunate to meet a couple of very interesting people in the mobile technology area, and also on the China side in terms of relationships with this new emerging license that came up. And so we set up a company, launched Cinda Telecom, sold that to China Unicom in 1999 after we had built 4 mobile networks, right? So really, and I was responsible for building out the merchant ecosystem and driving sales. Then I joined Sun Microsystems and helped them with growing the ecosystem around Java on their mobile phones. And so what would that ecosystem look like? Who are the players? How do we get them engaged, from handset operators, handset providers, to operators, to software developers, building solutions and technologies around that.
And of course, wasn't their mantra, the network is the computer? The computer is the network.
Exactly. The computer is the network, and the dot in the .com, right?
Yeah, I remember that well.
The network was the computer, and we had images of where you plug in your power socket. That was an RJ45 sock where you just stick in your, so electricity has become now our wireless network, right? And yeah, and then I decided in 2007 to go back to my entrepreneurial roots. I moved back to Hong Kong in the meantime, anticipating a growth in combining the entrepreneurial and engineering talent in China with the funding and the money and the capital markets in Hong Kong, and saw that it never actually melded really together as quick as I had hoped. But nonetheless, I got very much involved in managing developer communities, right? I really believe that innovation is coming from software developers that understood how to translate opportunities using technology to drive more efficiencies in the market and to streamline processes and workflows. And so we built a developer agency, Exicon, that then managed developer communities across Motorola, Qualcomm, Intel, Sony, BlackBerry, Google, and et cetera. And so we were just helping grow ecosystems, on the one hand, to compete against Apple and their App Store, but then also to grow developers around video interfaces, around IoT with Red Hat, with Juniper Networks, around their Junos operating system to their routers. And so we were promoting SDKs, and we were doing hackathons, about 30 a year. And that's when I sort of came across Bitcoin. One of the developers we were working with asked if I could pay him in Bitcoin for helping grow a community in Guatemala, or do a specific project it actually was. And so I then had to look it up, and this was about 2012. And then I went onto eBay, bought some, paying with PayPal at the time, and got my first Bitcoin with a Java wallet, the J wallet, the Bitcoin J wallet. And then that's how I sort of got into Bitcoin. And I was just hooked immediately, because the simplicity at which I could transfer money, the cost was nothing next to doing that, and the speed was instantaneously. So during a Skype call, we did that whole transaction. I paid immediately, no cost, compared to going to the bank the next day, where I had to queue up, first of all. Second of all, I had to wait 7 days to cash a US dollar denominated check, and it cost me $300 US to do that. And so I just was sold immediately.
It was like a bing, bing moment, exactly. Light bulb moment.
There's an opportunity here. Something's going to change. And then that happened. Anyway, that's a long-winded story, but that's sort of my history.
So I want to talk a little bit, before I go on to what you're doing now, you worked for a year and a half, I think, you were the CEO of Bitcoin.com working with Roger Ver. So that's like a very interesting story in your life and a time in your life working with Bitcoin Jesus. And, so tell me what attracted you to Bitcoin.com and what experience, what do you take away from it? And how was it working with Roger?
I mean, Roger was, he's quite his Bitcoin Jesus, right? And I got to meet him through, I watched obviously some of his videos in advance. I'd never actually met him. And then my wife at the time was working at a big Swiss bank and they were organizing a big tech conference. And I said, you got to get Roger there. He's a great speaker. So she got him there and he came and spoke. And then, as things had it, we met up outside at the end of the conference where everybody meets up in the hallway. And then we just hit it off and we were speaking, I think, on the very same level. We were, we had the same sort of visions as to where this industry needs to go, the power of disruption that it had, etc. And we were just chatting while hundreds of people were coming and wanting his picture, but we still sort of kept talking and it was super fun. And then sort of, I think a couple of weeks later, a month later, they were looking for somebody to do corporate development and grow the business. And I said, look, I'll do this for 3 months. I'll help you. I'll do this and see if I can close 3 deals in 3 months. That was sort of my mantra. And as it turned out, I did 5 deals in 3 months. And then, next thing I was the CEO and running the business. And we closed HTC. We launched an exchange. We got a credit card approval across 26 different countries. We launched a new wallet. We did rebranding. We launched mint.bitcoin.com. We grew the community to 80 different cities across, I think we had 30,000 meetup members that we'd grown to. So really aligned a lot of the Bitcoin Cash beliefs around core principles. So it was super active, full on. It was 120 degrees, 120 miles an hour nonstop. But it was fun. And it was, And working alongside Roger, he's got a lot of energy, a lot of passion as well. And so we were working very well alongside each other in making that happen and very fast.
Yeah.
Our belief was we needed to beat the regulators before they could over-regulate it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I'm not saying that you're not going to be more famous than Roger in the future. Who knows what the future will hold. But it's amazing for you to have worked so closely with someone who's been one of the original, crypto people. That's a huge privilege to be a friend and a colleague. So that's amazing. So now, what I want to talk about now, this is very exciting. I've read your manifesto, if you like. Sonic Capital, founded in May 2020, in the middle of this annus horribilis, and yet you have this amazing vision. And I want to lead one of the things: save the planet and make money. That sounds like something out of Flash Gordon. I'm going to do that. So tell me about the inspiration behind Sonic Capital.
Well, we had the COVID, right? And I think that just brought to shine on we've got some problems, right? And the world's not working. So how do we fix this world? We have 3 big problems, right? We have an environmental issue, we have a social issue, and then we have a governance issue, right? And I was doing some research into this ESG topic, and I found out that according to some study, I can't remember which one, $5 trillion in annual, abuse to governance, right? So crime at $5 trillion. The crypto market is only 300 billion, right? So it's tiny portion, and everybody's worried about crypto, but nobody's really worried about this bigger abuse of governance. Social, we've got about 1.7 billion unbanked people. They can't participate in anything, right? And then environmentally, I think we don't need to talk too much about that, given all the, Harrison Ford, what was that movie, time in San Francisco, the red skies, we've all seen those videos. And so when I sort of looked at that, and then I went to these ESG conferences, so I'm going, how are these people investing? So I go and and it's just manual. It's these people have checklists and they go and they tick these boxes and, oh yes, now you can invest in this company. And so it's all so it's like, and then I looked at some of the ESG funds. They're huge funds, big money, and they're investing in the same companies that a tech fund is investing in, right? There's no difference between the two. And so I said, what's the purpose of doing this? And then I felt that I met some tech companies, and particularly in the blockchain space, we can bring down the cost of capturing what your footprint is. We can put the governance on the truth machine, the blockchain. We can tokenize the environment so that consumers with their mobile phones can participate in all of that, right? 60% of the world population have smartphones today. They have a wallet that they can download from the App Store, and they can engage with these tokens to remunerate saving the planet. And that's sort of the way to do it. And it has to be profitable. If it's not profitable, it won't attract people.
You're right. And I think we've got past the thing where, you know, investment, and you mentioned quite a lot about Generation Z or Z and millennials, and they want impactful investment. And I see it. I have two children. I have two young daughters who are adults, sorry, 26, 23 children. And I know that they are very much concerned about the planet. I mean, I know because they buy recycled clothes, they use metal straws, one is vegan, one's vegetarian, they're animal lovers. They have a whole different, they're so much more evolved human beings than I was at their age. I had no concept of what they are aware of. So, but I think what you're tying together, which I really like, is that it's impactful, but it's making money. It saves the planet and make money at the same time. And it's why have people sort of avoided that? Because that's kind of crazy, isn't it? That people have not cottoned on to the fact that the climate change is not necessarily only a cost. Like, we're bringing laws in now. People are worried about the carbon tax. It's an opportunity.
And why are we taxing? You know, at the moment, we've always made money by killing things, right? We've chopped down trees, and then we've managed those trees to make money by selling furniture, right? Why can we not pay somebody to keep the tree alive? Because until now, we haven't had the technology to monitor what carbon is being sequestered by having a sensor, by keeping that tree alive, that mangrove, that kelp, whatever it might be. We can now track what that is. We have the formulas, we have the process to do so, and we can now tokenize that so that we can actually reimburse the actual origination, or the farmer that's keeping it alive, the diver that's keeping the kelp there and looking after it and protecting it. We can now reimburse those individuals directly because they can tokenize it, and they can then make sure that the people that appreciate it actually refund them for their work. So just by keeping things alive, they can generate money, right? And so that's, to me,
it's rethinking stuff. There's a bit of an argument going on here in Dublin, where we had huge, before COVID, huge traffic issues, right? And it's very congested, and we don't have our infrastructure is quite old fashioned. So it's not like the big motorways and stuff like that. We have very bad public transport. So the public transport bills going through, they're going to cut down these big old trees on these tree-lined suburban things to make more room for buses. Now, that makes sense in one sense. You want more people on buses. But now with COVID, maybe people don't need to travel so much during rush hour. And it's just like, oh, there's a different way to do things.
And like, do I need to travel during rush hour? I can travel at 10 o'clock instead of at 7 a.m. in the morning. I go at 10 a.m., right? And what they've done in China, so there's a really good app, I don't know if you've seen it, it's done by Alibaba, it's called the Ant Forest app. And basically what it does, it has a formula in the app that tracks how you go to work. Did I walk to work? Did I take a bike to work? Or did I take a taxi? Or I drove? If I drive and I take a taxi, that costs more, that has more pollutants in the air versus walking or biking. And so if you bike, you earn more points. If you walk, you earn points. If you then take a car, you don't earn green points. And so this app, now used by 500 million people, is now incentivizing users and reimbursing them for doing good. So actually, you as a user, just by walking to work, you are actually earning green points. You can then allocate those green points to planting a tree. And so it's already planted, I think 1 million trees have been planted across 10,000 hectares in China in the desert, right? So it's actually re-greenified the planet, and people have been paid for just walking to work.
Question for you. Now, I'm missing a link here. So I get the reward behavior, and I get then let's plant trees. So where does the monetary value come in? Where does the money come from?
So at the moment, the money is funded as a marketing exercise by Alibaba, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
they're funding it, right?
Yeah.
But now what you're seeing is that that marketing exercise is moving away just from Alibaba as a company, but now moving to all the suppliers that are now connecting to other apps. So they're on the WeChat app, the Pinduoduo app, or the Alibaba app. When you're purchasing something, I want to order a takeaway noodles, right? And ooh, do we want the bamboo chopsticks or no chopsticks? If you don't take the chopsticks, you earn green points. So all of a sudden, those points are becoming a tradable item.
Yeah.
So I, as a merchant, in order to win business, I want green points. I have to go to the issuer of green points, Alibaba, to purchase those green points to be able to provide those rewards to customers that are purchasing my takeaway food without the chopsticks. Because if they get the chopsticks, they don't get the points. If they leave the chopsticks behind, they get those points.
Genius.
So all of a sudden the ecosystem, and now that's no different to how do we tokenize those points? And then they become much more freely tradable. Not only can I use those green tokens to plant trees, I could possibly use that as payment to subsidize, to get so that merchant selling me the takeaway food can purchase from me versus going to Alibaba, right? And stuff like that.
That's so clever. Let me ask you a couple of questions about you have adversity equals opportunity, which is again thinking outside the box, turning it around and going, oh, why? Oh, woe is me. Energy.
Yep.
What's the opportunity there?
Huge opportunity. So I don't know if nobody's been paying much attention to what's happening in the energy world, right? I can go on for a while, but energy is going through a revolution in terms of what the telecommunication industry went through in the late 90s. There's huge deregulation happening, and it's creating what they call the DER market, right? The distributed energy resource market, which is enabling everybody to create energy and put that energy on the grid and provide and get reimbursed for the energy I add to the grid. And so in the US, they've created FERC 33. In Europe, they've created a law, the climate change law in England, as well as in Australia. So all these markets have deregulated. And so what does that mean? That means that basically now, not only when you have solar panels on the roof can you earn money, but you can then also possibly get carbon credits for having solar panels on your roof. So by not using the nuclear energy or the coal plant that's creating the energy, you are actually, there's a differential. How do I provide you that differential? And you can then earn carbon credits on top of selling surplus energy from the solar panels. And so that's one element that's going to happen. And then the other element is you're seeing all these big companies have now mandated, I'm going to go carbon neutral. Apple, my supply chain, H&M, you got Ralph Lauren, you've got Nike, you've got Amazon, Google. They've all announced their whole supply chain. They want to have a total carbon footprint by XYZ timeframe. That's moving down the supply chain. Companies like TSMC, that is a chip provider to Apple. So they're in the supply chain. So they need to be carbon neutral as well in order for Apple to be carbon neutral by 2030. And so they've gone ahead and said, we're going to be a leader in this. We're going to go to this Danish company called Ørsted that sells and creates wind farms and manages the wind farms that is then going to supply me with wind energy and no longer coal energy. And so all of a sudden, TSMC is paying a premium for that wind energy to be able to be carbon neutral, to continue its relationship with Apple that has mandated that all of their supply chains and suppliers need to be carbon neutral as well.
So where is the opportunity for Sonic Capital in this market?
So there are a number of technologies that are going to streamline this. If you look at all these companies that are today have mandated, and countries, by the way, as well, that want to be carbon neutral by X period of time, how do they, there's no way, given the existing processes and the existing solutions and means of getting carbon offset credits, that they can keep up with that demand. And so technology has to come in and help support that. Blockchain can do most of that work with one single audit in the smart contracts that is, and the algorithm, and the out two audit, sorry, and in the algorithm that's converting the carbon certificate into, it's converting the data into a carbon certificate that then can be tokenized, right? And so that whole process, you just need two audits in there and boom, the market is there. These tokens then can be freely tradable. Everybody can participate, and it can create a whole new industry that the world needs, in which consumers can participate, small, medium businesses can enjoy the benefits, as well as big companies. So it's a much more level, transparent ecosystem, where today it's extremely opaque, huge arbitrage in pricing, and highly regulated and governed, with lots of middlemen taking a cut along the way. If we can streamline that process and find the technologies and the entrepreneurs who are going to drive that, we want to be able to support them.
Brilliant. The other one I want to look at is the Unbanked. And I was in a conference last year, I think it was, in Cape Town. It was a banking conference, and they kept talking about banking the unbanked until you got to the blockchain cohort. They went, no, it's not banking the unbanked. It's helping the unbanked get access to value and transfer of value. So it was very funny. It was a very noticeable, we don't want to bank, we don't want to put them in that system. So what do you think the opportunities are with the unbanked, the 1.7 billion people that are unbanked?
So, I mean, to me, this is the tool, right? I need to have this tool in everybody's hand. Most of them already have one today. So they have a smartphone, maybe not this exact model, but they will have features available in that. And today, last we talked, if people, how do we allow users to earn directly without having to go through 15 middlemen? And I think with cryptocurrencies or tokens, you can enable them to do that. If a farmer is building, and so that's how we're going to get them engaged. We need the right apps. We need to help them with onboarding into those apps. We need to provide them with the tools that help them track their tokens and then deploy those tokens into tools that allow them to manage. If you look worldwide, in Google, you do who's searching Bitcoin? Nigeria is always number 2. It's the number 2 country where you have the most Bitcoin searches. And so, and if you look at that, that means that there is a demand in Africa for solutions in this area. I think we constantly run into difficulties as it relates to the regulations in a lot of these countries, make it very difficult for participants to drive entrepreneurs to build solutions that get adopted. And there is also, and there are multiple reasons why that is. One could be education, the other could be just mistrust, threat. There are a whole bunch of different reasons why. I just think that there is a huge opportunity there, and particularly you have to go mobile first, mobile only.
I think it's scary, you're right, because as you say, they might not have the most up-to-date smartphones, but everybody has a smartphone. And in the continent of Africa, we see, you mentioned telecoms earlier. No one has landlines in Africa. They went straight to mobile. So they leapfrog stuff. So it's green environments, greenfield environments.
And if you look today, talking about telecoms, right? So when we first, got into mobile to telephony, right? Before we had to communicate, we had to pay lots of money. Every time I called you, I had to pay. You called me, I had to pay, or you had to pay. And so we had to pay for all the services that we got. Then along came IP, and then IP allowed us, everyone said, no, use my service for free. But you're not using it for free, you're paying data for it. So we've now learned that it wasn't actually for free. We were paying in the form of data. That data has now become so important that all of a sudden, with new emerging business models, will we be paid for sharing our data to use your service? And if you look at the virtuous loop that everybody talks about in more users, more data, more improvement on your product, get to more users. So if you look at that virtuous circle, that circle is going to drive the need to get data. And the customer acquisition cost is far cheaper if I just pay you in tokens to sharing your data with my service so that I can improve my service. And so I think you're going to see a lot more new business models evolve in that area. And that will drive a UBI.
Which is amazing. That's well, I love it. I love the tagline when you say investing in tomorrow, but save the planet and make money. It's just, it's thinking, it's like, I'm back to like that example in Dublin when they're going to cut down these 100-year-old trees to put buses on the road. I'm going, stagger the traffic, move out of town. There's so many other ways we can do it without cutting 100, these are 150-year-old oak trees. It's not only been beautiful, but the carbon that's what's the word, sequestered?
Sequestered, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time. I love your thinking. And as I say, when we spoke before, we were talking about if money is passion and passion is money. What a much more exciting world we live in than if it's just money is something you use to buy something. It's your passion as well. So thank you so much indeed for your time again today, Stefan.